Welcome to Rent TV. And this is like a topic I always kind of wanted to talk about, but it's just timing is always very important with these things. So there's this there's this thing there's this thing about people who get into the business of black businesses. People who get into the business of owning a black business. So it's a lot of people who kind of take advantage, especially people who can pass as black, or I won't say pass as black, but people who pass as they come from a certain black culture, especially in the Western world, right? Where, because being black, I've said it before, is deep as far as the categorization of being black, especially in the Western world, is kind of specific. It's not just the color of your skin. It's like you have to subscribe to a certain culture, bro. You feel me? Where you have to not just subscribe, but understand that culture, fit into that culture, right? But there are people who look like it and they pass. And a lot of these people, and a lot of these people sometimes go into the business of black businesses. A lot of times because they know a lot of the loopholes as far as from a legal standpoint or from a perspective where they come from a different culture, even though they might pass as black or look black, they come from a different culture where different setting, different environment where they learn and they know certain things to do to possibly elevate a so-called black business to a level where someone else that might not come from that culture might not have that exposure because they came from a certain life, right? And there are a lot of people who like to use these people, right? Especially people from different race and stuff like that. Want to use these people to be a front, to pass, so they can have access to a lot of, like, you can even say grants, tax breaks, and a lot of things that come from partnering up with a minority or being part of a minority business. You see a lot of the 51% owned by black individual or so-called black individual, and then the rest owned by someone else from a different race, where it's over that percentile where it could still be categorized as a minority business. And it goes even deeper than that, where and it goes even deeper than that, where it's not just people from different race that do that. It'll be people who don't necessarily or have never categorized themselves as black, don't come from that type of black culture, don't know anything about that culture, but they own a black business, right? And the crazy thing about it is, one thing I'll say about black people who do come from that culture, when they do come around you, they could always tell. And that's where a lot of times these people who are passing, usually things gets crazy for them. Because black people could always tell. The minute, like, they could see you and not know, but the minute they come around you and talk to you, now you don't have to talk in Ebonics. You don't have to. You could speak however you speak. It doesn't matter. But it's about, they could tell if you subscribe to a certain culture, if you're a part of that culture, just from you speaking, just from what you know, they could tell. And even if you know how to fake it, there's energy doesn't lie. There's a certain energy, a certain vibe that will never connect. It will never connect because part of being in that culture is what connects you. You embodying that culture, knowing certain things, like even if you don't know certain things, it's just a certain vibe where people could feel it, especially if you from that culture. There's a connection there. And there's some people who are not even necessarily so-called black that you could have those moments with and have those feelings with, where it's just like, okay, cool, like you can still tell, nah, this person is part of that culture. Like they subscribe to this shit. Like they actually like they live it, you could tell. So you feel that connection. And there's certain people you don't feel it from at all. And you can't hide that from black folks. They could tell. And that disconnect is there. And sometimes some people think it's something else that's creating the disconnect. They go searching for all types of things to create the disconnect. When the disconnect is, that's not really you. And you can only fake to a certain degree. That's not really you. That's not your culture. That's not the culture you subscribe to. But you own a business in that culture, though. You own a business in that culture. Now, you can grow and try to get in touch with your so-called blackness, but there has to be some type of respect level to that culture and what brought you into that culture. Or there's no way you can go further in that culture because that's not your culture. And people could tell. People could tell. Everybody that knows you could tell. And even the people that don't know you that come from that culture could tell. So it's like once that exposure happens, you can go look everywhere you want to look to find every other reason when that's the reason. So the idea of you owning that business could have came from you. It could have came from someone else. It could have been whatever. And there's nothing wrong with you trying to get in touch with your culture, or that side of you. But there's a certain amount of respect you have to have. There's a certain amount of respect you have to have within that. And I've noticed this with a lot of these people who pass. They get to a point where they get shown love because there's all these companies backing them up and making them, and a lot of them are good at acting like that's the stuff they come from. A lot of these people, they're good at just coming in and just passing and just picking up things quick and start acting like, oh. And then the minute, this is what happens. I've seen it happen so many times. The minute they start getting some type of success from it, they lose sight of the thought that, oh, this is not your culture. You gotta be careful. You still learning. At least if you're trying to learn. Or you still passing. But they get so comfortable because of the love that they start to get. And then a lot of times they get pushed because these are people who other people from other cultures are more comfortable being around than people who actually come from this culture a lot of times. Because it's just like, oh nah, like there's more of a disconnect there. And again, people could tell from that culture that this person ain't from this culture. So it's like there's somewhat of a disconnect. And they could tell you just trying to use something, and it might not be genuine. And it could have started off genuine. It could have been genuine. But again, it always get exposed when the clout comes. And now they start acting like they own something within a culture that was never even theirs. Now it's like amnesia kicks in where they start forgetting, like, hold on, like you're not even. So it's like, is it really you? And everybody who knows you, usually with these people, know that's not you. So what did you get around, or where did you get the idea? As far as maybe you had an epiphany, where did you get the epiphany from? Because everybody around you knows that's not you. Everybody around you knows, okay, there's definitely a defining factor. Something happened for this to happen, because that's not regular for you. But again, a lot of people, they get delusional and start to believe that because of the clout and all that, they forget. It's not even they believe. They start to forget that, hold on, like, you're not even from this culture, really. The best example I could give you, it happened to Obama, bro. Where he's not really black as far as what black is in the Western world, specifically American. He's not black, really. He's not really African. I don't think Jews would consider him a Jew. Some people say he's not even American. So there's a lot of these people that like pass, and then he came in black culture, and I feel like he got to a point where it's like people were embracing him and saying all these things about him, and then he got to a point where, again, with the clout and all that, he started feeling like he forgot that, bro, you're not even really from this culture. It happens to Kamala too. It always happens, bro. And not to single out those two, because it happens all the time. It happens to people that's even on a lower scale than that, with lower exposure than that. It happens all the time. And then another thing I noticed too, there's a world where it's all filled with people like that. And they have so much control over so-called black culture that it's insane. Where it's just a room full of people like that. And then the people who really come from the culture go over there and they start pandering to these people because they realize how much power these people have and who's really backing these people, bro. And so once you get to a certain level of this, you could actually live comfortably, as far as in a setting where it's all so-called black people who are all just passing. It's just everybody there is passing. So there's a certain amount of comfortability. There's a certain amount of comfortability where it's just like the ego, the clout. They start believing something that's not really a reality, where it's like there's no humbling factor. They really start to believe something that's like, but if everybody who knows you know that's not you, because a lot of these people can't bring nobody from their past to vouch for them and say, nah, this person is being like this, they like this. They can't. There's nobody. They find symbolism and all these things in their past to make it seem like, yeah, nah, I've been like that. They can't bring nobody. Someone, bro, a lot of them, their families can't even come out and be like, nah, that's how this person is. They can't even bring family members out. So it's like, where did that come from? Is it just a lick? Now again, you could try to get to know that side of yourself if you want to, but it's it's still like a respect level where it's just like, okay, you can't let the clout, and a lot of these people, they can't even get clout like that within their culture, within the culture that they subscribe to, within the culture that they've grown up in. They can't even go get clout in that culture. So it's crazy how delusional sometimes people get, where it's just like, then you come into another culture and then you get clout from there, or get clout there to a level where you can't even get that same clout in your culture, and you start to act like, you know what I'm saying? You start to let that get to your head, where it's just like you start to act like you have no respect for that, and you start to act like that's you, to a degree where everybody else You just want to feed off of them.